All right. Kyla, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell me about your book. It Fetishized, A Reckoning with Yellow Fever, Feminism, and Beauty. It talks about pop culture and the way it fetishizes Asian women as well as how that's tied into colonization. It's a fascinating book.
Yeah, so the book is called Fetishized. It's about the fetishization of Asian women and my personal experiences with it. So it's a memoir and it's like a series of essays covering a lot of the media that influenced me growing up that was fetishy. It turns out like Memoirs of a Geisha, Super Problematic, Harajuku Girls, the Fast and Furious series. So yeah, I delve into different media, and my personal background with it is that I used to be a pinup model like decades ago. And I kind of played into the fetishization or like objectification of women for the male gaze. So the book kind of is a reckoning of my own, like just questioning some of my choices and some of the cultural influences that shaped me at the time.
Yeah, I was reading some of the promo copy and it says no one has fetishized you more than you. Can you expound upon that?
Well, so growing up I grew up in a city called Upland, California. It's a very small suburb in like 40 miles east of Los Angeles. And I was like nerdy and the boys didn't pay attention to me. And like, I didn't get asked to any dances. And I really was boy crazy and boys weren't interested in me at all. They didn't find me attractive or whatever. So I think during that age, I just really had a hunger for acceptance because I felt invisible. When another influence growing up is the fact that there were no Asian female influences when I was in elementary school. I can't even really name one. This was before Lucy Liu, so I don't even know who was like, there wasn't a superstar before her. And then I didn't have any role models, and I discovered this Playboy model online named Sung Hee Lee, beautiful Korean woman, and all the boys were in love with her. And I was like, oh, that's who I want to be like. That kind of brings me to representation. Like, if I had more choices of people to look up to, maybe I would have pursued something different. But I decided I wanted to be a Playboy model. And then I ended up objectifying myself because I wanted the male gaze. I didn't have the male gaze whatsoever, right? So I I just fully played into it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so let's talk about pop culture because I was born in '82. My memories of seeing Asian women are, very one note up until even, not very recently. You talk, I mean, when you go back to even like the Rush Hour movies, those are in the, the 2000s, and it's just like you used the word a lot where when you talk about fetishization, it's about dehumanization as well,
Mhm.
how it makes people less human. And when I look back on a lot of media, it's very clear Asian people weren't treated as human in Western media until very recently, shockingly recently.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the Rush Hour series was just kind of like I was pursuing acting at that time, and every role was like you had to pretend you had a broken English accent, which I'm really bad at. So I never got any of those auditions. And then, like, the rest were for massage parlor girls or prostitutes or kung fu fighters. So those were like the only options. And the massage parlor scene I bring up also in my book in Rush Hour because it's like Chris Tucker is just referring to the women as a buffet, basically. And he's like, I'm so excited for this. I'm going to choose that one, that one, that one, that one. And that kind of just embodies what the stereotype of Asian women were like, objects that could be disposable and interchangeable.
Yeah, and it's also bizarre because it's like there's this desire, but there's also the same criticism of the very features of Asianness in the women as well. Not to jump ahead 20, 30 years when it comes to pop culture, but Love Island, there was a controversy because one of the contestants was using a slur for Asian people to describe her body features, and it's directly about the bodies of Asian women, and the response from a lot of people was, "This isn't a slur. There's nothing wrong with saying this." And you wrote about this for was it Vogue?
For Teen Vogue.
Teen Vogue, Teen Vogue.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. So many people don't think that it's a slur or aren't aware. I mean, I think that has to do with like Asian American history is not taught in school. So like they're simply ignorant. I'm not mad at them for like not knowing, but it's interesting because like maybe 5 years ago, there was a trend on TikTok, the fox eye trend, where everyone was trying to have Asian eyes. And then there was controversy because the girls like I think it was Bella Hadid and some Kardashian or something. They were like doing the pulling eyes thing. That's a racist gesture, actually.
Yes.
But then in that sense, and then this gets into cultural appropriation, which I think sometimes has been taken too far. But it's just like women who are not Asian can come and say, oh, I choose that feature. I like it right now. But they don't have to deal with any of the like racism that we've had to face about our eyes. But they can like pick and choose the features they want to highlight or take for themselves.
Yes, I see a lot of this in pop culture. I have to congratulate my Asian brothers and sisters because there used to be just pop singers would go through a black phase, but now some of them are going through an Asian
Yeah,
phase as well.
definitely. I mean, I think Gwen Stefani is really kind of one of the prime examples of that, probably. And I cover her in the book, The Harajuku Girls, because I loved them growing up because there were no Asians on MTV. So it was so
Yes.
exciting. Like, even though they were bowing down to Gwen Stefani and they weren't allowed to speak, like, at least they were in cool outfits and they were dancing at the MTV Movie Awards.
I see 4 Japanese girls.
Oh, they might be my inspiration.
Oh.
Yeah, that might be my inspiration. You're feeling them or something like that, yeah.
I think I am feeling them. I think it works wonderfully.
Thank you.
How do you feel it's going? She seems happy.
I remember seeing them on TV. It's like, oh, like this is interesting. There's Japanese people on TV. Shame they
Mhm.
aren't speaking or saying
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, but they were so stylish and their makeup was so good and like they were cool. But yeah, and I don't think Gwen Stefani, I actually do kind of believe her that she is trying to celebrate, but she's not, I guess, maybe willing to listen to criticism. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Fast and Furious. So you were actually in Tokyo Drift version as a import model, and that's a job. That's something you did in real life as well. So actually, let's back it up. What is import modeling? Because I feel like it was something that was very big for a while. Maybe it's not so prominent in the culture now, but I also like how you kind of document the women who were in it because I think that's something important because they were a part of culture and their history should be documented.
Yeah, import models just basically are models that model with Japanese import cars or Asian import cars. Because I guess every Asian knows what an import model is, but most people who are not have no idea what an import model is. Yeah, during the early 2000s, there was just a huge scene. Asians had no real community, I guess. And then car shows became a place where they could gather. At home, the men would fix up their cars and then bring them to the shows and like compete in competitions and races. And these took place all across the country. And then the models became really popular at the shows. And this very subculture, and I think a lot of people don't know this, inspired the Fast and Furious franchise. Like the first one, they consulted with RJ De La Vera, who is like a prominent import scene person. And other people, they consulted with people from the scene. And then eventually, as the series has gone on, they've like gone in a totally different direction. But I kind of wanted to
Yes,
highlight
they're
the
in
movie.
space
Yeah, they're
now.
in space is what everybody points out now. So I don't think they really have to do with cars. It's like a crime fighting show or movie now. But I just don't want it to be forgotten, like where the roots are, because it is like the biggest franchise universal pictures has ever had.
So you talk a lot about different pop culture on your TikTok feed, which is amazing. I highly recommend people check it out, and it's a great preview for your book, Fetishized, available everywhere on August 19th. But one of the things you mentioned about, the street racing culture, you're actually in a video game, and it brings us back to fetishization. You're in a video game as a girlfriend that you can win in
Yeah.
Street
Sing
Racing Syndicate. Yeah.
Syndicate, yeah. So this was a video game that was out on Namco, I believe, and it was kind of based on, like, Need for Speed, except, like, you could win girlfriends. So, like, every time you win a race, I think you can unlock a girlfriend. It's just basically we were told as the models, I think there were, like, 20 models to show up at the shoot, and we had to dance against a green screen. You would start off in, like, jeans and a crop top, and then go to, like, jeans and a mini skirt and, like, crop top, and then a bikini. So you could unlock all these videos of your girlfriends, but the goal was to collect as many girlfriends as possible. And I was just like, "Why can't you just win one girlfriend?"
Yes, the
I was
one
like,
you
"Why
like the most.
like you have a harem?" Yeah.
That actually is fairly common in video games, and players like that, picking one to
Yeah,
focus.
you win the princess, like the Mario Brothers wins the princess at the end, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so Kyla, you also talk about some of the really negative and tragic consequences of fetishization and how it could have some really serious consequences for actual Asian women. You were friends with a woman named Felicia Tang, and true crime fans may know this as the horrific title chapter known as "The Porn Star and the Preacher," right?
Mhm.
And you've written about how that title, besides being offensive, just outright offensive, was also not true and part of, this fetishization of Asian women. And you
Yeah, it's
personally
crazy, yeah.
knew Felicia, I believe.
Yes, yeah, I knew her, like, acquaintances. We weren't close friends, but we were very friendly, and I really liked her, and she was very sweet. But, yeah, the whole thing is, like, calling Felicia a porn star is like calling Pamela Anderson a porn star. Neither of them are porn stars, but I think, like, I don't know, in her death, it just felt like they were reaching for the headlines and, like, treated her, again, as disposable and dehumanized her, and, like, how it must have been for her family to read these kind of headlines and, like, for people to search for that decades later and still be able to find those headlines. And, she shouldn't be remembered like that because she simply was not a porn star.
We're still seeing this dehumanization even in very popular things today. White Lotus, the most talked about scene from, I believe, season 3, featured Sam Rockwell, I believe an Oscar winning actor, giving a speech about how he went to Thailand as a sexual tourist and slept with thousands of women, so many that he felt like he wanted to become an Asian woman and sleep with himself.
This is a very strange conclusion. Yeah. But I think the show did a good job of bringing more awareness to this issue because it introduced me to terms I've never even heard of. Like there's a term in Southeast Asian countries called loser back home. And it refers to like these old men, usually white, I guess, who go to Thailand and they could never get a hot girl in their own country. They're not wealthy enough or whatever. But, these are sometimes third world countries they're going to. So the dollar goes really far. And you see these like past middle
Passport,
age.
passport
Passport
bros.
others like dating these like 19-year-olds who are extremely beautiful, but they just go and do what Sam Rockwell did, I think, just, like, go through as many women as possible. It's like they'll sign up for I think there's tours available, like sex tourism tours. I could jump into, like, what the history of colonialism is.
Oh, yes, we gotta do that. Yes, yes, yes. So, and of course, that sexual tourism ties into how all of this ties to colonialism and how you address that in your book, because that's kind of what the thing that really like got to me is like, oh, this is all tied together. This is not, separate. What's happened because you mentioned is mentioned like Full Metal Jacket and the Vietnam War and how the literal colonization of that country led to fetishization of Asian women, even in anti-war films.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the sex tourism industry today in some of those countries has its origins in war because the government had a program where when soldiers were done fighting, they would be sent to rest and restitution, which basically meant getting sent to like another Asian country where there were prostitutes available. So that was kind of, in a way, their reward, like not formally, but that was basically how it was set up. And it was the soldiers, I think, would joke that it stood for rape and restitution, or like, um, they used to call Filipino women who could be bought for the price of a cigarette back then little brown fucking machines powered by rice. And that was like an
Jeez.
acronym that they would put on t-shirts that everybody knew what this was referring to. Um, yeah, the fact that the sex tourism industry is still thriving today, I feel like I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but millions and millions of dollars of like single male generated sex tourism is still going to Thailand.
Wow. Let's see. So you talk in your book about how you personally struggle with this. And I love in your writing how vulnerable you are. How you talk about how like these messages still bother you and still get to you sometimes. How do you and I want to just ask you, like as someone like as a model, did how it make you feel being fetishized constantly in the industry? How did it make you feel about yourself and how your body and how your relationship with that and how you kind of deal with that on a personal level?
Well, honestly, for a young woman back then who was felt invisible and powerless, that attention was very powerful and addicting. Because when you're in your early 20s, you're taught that like youth and beauty are your superpower in a patriarchal society. That's like how it's built. The only thing that you don't realize is that this is only like a temporary pass. There's always a new, fresher model behind you. And it's a very temporarily, like, it doesn't really, I just had a deep sense of need for like self worth and love. And that validation felt like it was filling that, but it did not. It was only a temporary thing. And ultimately, I still had to go and like discover my own self love. And yeah, that kind of attention is never deeply fulfilling. It's temporary.
Awesome message. Fetishized by Kaila Yu. Thank you so much for coming on Struggle Session. I really appreciate talking with you about this. You have a fascinating story, a fascinating book. Please check out, I recommend everyone check out your TikTok page as well because you put a bunch of cool stuff on there every day. Where can people find you and where can people find the book?
So yeah, my name's Kaila Yu, and you can find me by my name on all platforms and my website. And the book will be dropping on August 19th at all bookstores. So you could just find it anywhere. Audiobook also available.
All right, folks, that was Struggle Session. Have a good one. Peace.